life story and contributions of Morris Mills III are nothing short of remarkable. Maury, as he's affectionately known to so many of us, has been a lifelong partner in the family business, Mills Brothers Farms. He was a 32-year member of the Indiana General Assembly, including serving as chair of the State Budget Committee, and he's been an unrivaled advocate for independent higher education in the state of Indiana. Maury attended Earlham College on the GI Bill after World War II and later received his MBA from the Harvard Business School. Over the years, 75 family members have been at Earlham as students, board members, and supporters of that fine institution. While serving in the Indiana House in the early 70s, it was Maury who introduced legislation that led to the Freedom of Choice Grant. The Freedom of Choice Grant allowed students at the independent colleges to receive a grant alongside those at the public universities. Now for 45 years, this grant has allowed our students to have truly a freedom of choice for their college education. For many years now, Maury has served on the board of directors of ICI, Independent Colleges of Indiana, and for the last several years on the executive committee. And as Maury is stepping down from the board, we've asked him to share some of his thoughts and insights of his own and ICI's history, which he does with grace, humor, and an extra large dose of humility. Morris Mills III.
Well, of course, when you talk about independent colleges, there was only one in our family, and that was Earlham College. Before I went to Earlham, I got drafted in the Army, and I finally decided to go and had a chance to enlist for 18 months. And out of the 18 months, I got 3 years at Earlham because I doubled up my time and graduated in 3 years, and then a year and a half at Harvard at the business school. I majored in economics at Earlham and thought about coming back home. So at that time was a milk processing plant. And my economic professor got sick the last semester, and they brought in a young fellow from who was teaching down at IU, just graduated from Harvard Business School, and he looked at my record and he said, "You ought to apply to Harvard." And I had a year and a half left on the GI Bill out of the two. I said, "Well, why not?" And so I got admitted. I wouldn't have a chance now in terms of. We got back for the Union, and of course it's kind of interesting to see what's happened to everybody over the years and kind of get the fact on life. There's that old fellow that took care of the cemetery down where Marianne's folks are. Was not too overly educated, but he was a custodian. He said, "You know, I've noticed that everybody that's in here has exactly the same amount of space, whether they had $1 million or 10, and that's a pretty good perspective on life." You know, some of that applied back at Harvard. I mean, we had a couple of guys, 3 or 4 guys made the Forbes list, and 500, and you know, they had the same aches and pains all the rest of us did. So it kind of a good perspective on life, I guess. I've been very fortunate to balls bounced the right direction at the right time for a few times. I guess I was smart enough to take advantage of it when it happened. Dad was a trustee at Earlham, I think, while this period's going on. And that's when they were beginning to think about the colleges ought to get organized. And I think Frank Sparks became president of Wabash, and he organized a group. I don't know when the actual ICI became organized, but it kind of outgrew that first group, which was strictly a fundraising group. And that's the way this thing took place. So I've always been interested somewhat in education, but I hadn't thought much about it since then. I guess maybe I was serving on the Earlham Foundation at that time, but when Bob Martin approached me about the Freedom of Choice grants. And Bob Martin had the great idea of selling it the idea that the freedom of choice would save the state money because they didn't have to pay for the brick and mortar that went into those buildings. And it passed. I don't remember anything at all about the discussion in the legislature. I don't know who carried the bill in the Senate, but it just breezed through with no, I can remember no discussion at all. I never knew him at all before he came and approached me about this bill. And but evidently he was a very effective and quiet fellow, and often did a good job of preparing the ground for the introduction of the bill. So I think most of the credit ought to go to him for this bill. I just happened to be the messenger at the time. I think that the original argument that they made was that this was very a cost-effective system in doing it. And I think that idea still needs to be pursued very heavily. I mean, it doesn't cost the state anything to fund the independent colleges. It's a savings to the state, and I think you need to hammer on that all the time. I was at Lions Club, and one of the fellows in party in power said, we're short of candidates because they're all going with the new group, would you run? And I said, why not? At that time, we ran at large in Marion County, all 15 of us. So you had a district bigger than the congressional district. I said, well, I'll run if you get the slate me countywide. And he came back and said, we'll do it. Well, we got beat 2-1. I thought that was the end of my career, but one of the fellows on the other side, a good friend of mine, was Richard Given, who later became Supreme Court Justice and Chief Justice. He came to me next year. He said, well, I'm going to run for Supreme Court. I'm going to tell my guys to give you my seat. And then I got interested in finance, and Doc Bowen was Speaker of the House, and he was interested in property tax reform, and so I wrote him a letter just after I got elected and told him I was very interested in that field and would support him whatever he wanted to do. So he put me on finance, the House Ways and Means Committee the first year. And then the second year I got named chairman of the budget subcommittee of the second term. And I ended up kind of filling an unusual space in the legislature because I lived from Marion County, which was a no-no in the legislature. I was a farmer, so that worked out in the state, and I had a degree from Harvard, so they thought the business community had some respect there. And so I just kind of fell into the right spots at the right time and got interested in the committees that were interesting. I was doing pretty well in the House, you know, and they redistricted again in '71, I guess. And there was a vacant Senate seat on the southwest corner of town. And the other candidate, Buellen, didn't think much of it, possibility, and he said, I think you run for the Senate. I said, I don't want to run for the Senate. He said, I think you'd better run for the Senate, period. He said, I'll give you some help. It was Mitch Daniels for my first, to help me on my first campaign for the Senate. That's when he was just gotten out of Princeton, was beginning to dabble in politics. And looking back about that same period of time, that fellow used to have a golf outing up at Monticello, and he wanted me to come. He was in the utility business, I think, or something. And he said, well, I'll get you a ride up there. And turned out the guy that took me there was Dan Quayle. But it was a great career, and the other thing I think I did, and I think the same thing applies to this, I quit at the right time. Walked away in good spirits.